The militaries there were training, and suddenly they see this object, and the general says, shoot that thing down. That artifact, whatever it was, shoots back and hurts at least one of the soldiers. Spent a week at the hospital, and stops over the plane in flight, illuminating the cabin, and travels with the plane, and then goes forward and back, goes flying again. And he said, okay, I need to tell this to someone. What is going on? He went to make the report, and we do know they burned that report. They were working last night, and they started to see lights coming out from the water, like drones, he told me, and flying over the boat and going to land. It sounds very much like what's happening in New Jersey.
With us today is UFO researcher from Argentina, Fernando Hildebrandt. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Fine, Cristina. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm a little bit nervous, I must say, because it's my first interview in English. And, I speak a little bit like a caveman, but I'm going to try to do my best here to communicate what is going on here and the way we see the phenomenon here in Argentina.
A lot of the times when people think of UFO researchers, they think of people from the US or the UK, but Argentina needs to be on that list as well because not only does the country have a lot of strange cases, but a lot of incredible researchers and investigators. And so I'm so grateful that you're here today. And even though you're a little bit nervous, your English is very, very good. Honestly, it is. And I'm very excited to get to know more about your research, get to know a little bit more about the country as well. But before we even touch on Argentina, for those that aren't familiar with you and your work, how did you get into this topic?
Okay, it's a long story, but I'm gonna try to do it short. I was just a little kid. I think I was like 5 years old, and we lived in La Pampa, which is a state in the center of the country, with my family. My father had a ranch there. And we were coming back from a town near the ranch. We were there for the grocery, and where we were coming back, it was winter, so it was just night at 6 p.m. And we suddenly see a red light in the woods, and we all immediately thought, okay, that's fire. And fire in the fields in the country is a big problem. And the ranch next to my father's ranch was from my uncle. So we went to my uncle's ranch, and we told him, okay, you have fire on your ranch. And I remember seeing the men's getting ready to fight fire, and calling the some other people in the town to help. And I remember they went to fight the fire and came back 15 minutes later, and there they were amazed because that red light lift up and fly over their heads. It was not fire, it was a UFO. And that was my first encounter with the phenomenon. But at the same time, my family, which is a very old family from here in Argentina and also in Europe, had a lot of encounters with the, even I will say, the high strangeness of the phenomena. And I remember very clearly the event. My father lived right there at his ranch in La Pampa. One night in 1972, he was about to go to sleep, and he looks outside and sees some lights on a hill that was right in front of the main house. And and a worker from the ranch comes and knocks the door and says, Mr. Silva, we have some gypsies up there. Because in those times, we had nomad gypsies going from ranch to ranch. And they say, okay, let's go and speak with them and try to make a deal so they can stay a few days. And my father gets a rifle with 6 bullets just in case.
That's a
And
good way to start a conversation, right,
you,
Fair?
you you really don't know what you're going to find in the fields in the middle of the night. You know, it's all dark and you're seeing these lights. Well, they were a little bit worried, but they never thought that this could ever be a UFO or something like that. And they jumped into a jeep and start driving on a road in the woods, and they were seeing these lights, and comes to a point where they stop the engine of the jeep. So the intention was not alert the gypsies. uh, they were coming, so they stop the engine and the vehicle keeps going. And they also turn off the lights, so the vehicle keeps going in the dark. And in that very same moment, the worker, my father's friend, says, Mr. Silva, there is a deer. You see it? It's a deer. When you are in the fields at night, and you put your the lights of your car on an animal, you see the light reflected on the eyes. What they were seeing was two little orange eyes looking at them. But the thing is, the lights of the jeep were off, so those eyes were emitting that orange light. You know, were self-illuminated. My father says, okay, but that can't be a deer because our lights are off. So, well, they stop the jeep. They go out and start walking to this thing, whatever it was, with the rifle. But the bullets were in the pocket just in case, for security. The thing is, that thing starts walking back to the field, the main field they had there in the hill, which was surrounded by forest, by woods. And what they see is outstanding. Lights in the sky, lights over the grass and the pastures, and 7 round windows with yellow light inside, and 3 main focuses of light, like reflectors from airport. One was red, the other was orange, and the other one was white. The thing is, they see this and start to think, okay, we're not so sure these guys are gypsies, because they have a lot of technology there. And remember, it is 1972. So my father had a telescope on the rifle, that thing to see closer. The thing is, my father sets himself on a wood and starts looking closer through the telescope on the rifle, and sees movement behind those little windows, and sees the movement of the reflectors and everything working. And but there was no sound, and the two orange eyes still walking backwards to the what we now know it was the main ship. The thing is, they decided to make some shots in the air to call the attention of the gypsies again. My father had 6 bullets. He did 5 shots in the air, and nothing happened. Everything was uh, quiet, but with a lot of things happening at the same time. So he decided to shut the red reflector, and points shots, and everything goes dark. All the lights are shut off. And again, silence. They couldn't even hear a cricket. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I remember my father always shared this story with his friend. He said we're like 20, 30 minutes in the complete dark, because it was a night without a moon. It was completely dark. Uh, and 30 minutes later, all the lights were up and running again. You had the seven windows, the lights in the sky, the lights in the field, on the pastures, the three reflectors, the yellow, the orange, the red one. At that point, they thought, okay, maybe we should go back to the to the house of the ranch and wait for these people to leave. They were not sure what they were seeing, but they started to think maybe it was not completely normal. The thing is, my father went to sleep on a sofa looking at the lights in that hill. I remember he told me it was like 4 a.m. in the morning when he fell asleep. And at the same time, my uncle, I told you he lived in the ranch next to my father's ranch, was coming back from the discotheque in the town with like 20 other people. And they were all traveling on trucks and cars, going to the ranch because they were going to have a barbecue the next day, which was Sunday. And when they were coming back to the ranch, they saw the lift up from my father's ranch, a flying saucer, a perfect flying saucer, uh, shiny silver in the middle of the night with a little white light around, and it suddenly, boom, flies with an incredible speed to the Cordillera of Los Andes. So listening to those kind of stories and seeing what I've seen, yeah, it was my path. It was my there was no way I could have made journalism about other things than UFOs.
With stories like that, I can completely understand. And there are some theories that maybe people that have UFO experiences might be generational, where it comes from like the grandfather, the father, the son, and so on. Do you think that's the case with your own family research?
Well, possibly yes. I shared this with Gary Nolan, and we've been speaking about it a few times. I also spoke about this thing of generational, like a lineage, with Nestor Berlanda and Juan Acevedo Peinado, which are two main investigators here in Argentina. They wrote the first book in South America, I guess, in Spanish world, about abductions, but from the view of a psychiatrist and a psychologist, because they are they, Berlanda is a psychiatrist and Peinado is a psychologist, and they are both of them are very good friends of mine, and I spoke with them about this because I'm highly at some point I'm highly skeptical about my own experiences. I always try to find the easiest explanation, the Occam razor. I think there is a connection between the families, the members of the families, and the phenomenon. But what I really know, what I do know, is my mother had experiences, my grandmother had experiences, my father obviously was an experiencer, and I have some other data from people coming to, I mean, the 1800s in my family, having really weird experiences at the seas in Europe, here in Argentina. I think some families have some thing, or maybe a stronger connection, or something in their system, in their bodies. I mean, like dimethyltryptamine, the DMT, interacting some way to open the gates to a bigger view of reality. I think that could be the case very well.
And not only have you done research into your own family, but you're also part of a UFO research group in Argentina referred to as ALAS. Can you tell us about their work and their findings and what ALAS even stands for?
Well, Alas is, I'm part of the press apartment of Alas. The director is a very good friend of mine, Pablo Ducó. He's a pilot, and he has the same questions and fears that Ryan Graves has. So he decided to start with Alas, with Andrea Perez Simondini, who is a great UFO researcher for here in Argentina, and uh, because of some things happening in the sky and with pilots from airlines here in Argentina on a daily basis almost, Pablo decided to start with Alas, yeah, 1 year ago, and we started to work to provide pilots a safe environment to speak about what is happening in the skies. That's the idea of ALAS, giving them the way to share what is going on, build a database, and start to work with institutions to try to understand what is going on in the sky, to prevent things like an event we had on August 2023, which was quite disturbing. It is an interesting case because the first thing we knew was a flight coming from Buenos Aires to Bariloche had a little encounter with something and some problems. And then we found recording of the radio with the control tower of another flight saying, we're seeing something here. We're about to lift off, and there is something here with us. And the control radio telling them, okay, that's 100% not an airplane. We don't know what it is, because the pilots were seeing a light at the airport, and, and they didn't know what to do. So we started to investigate what happened that night. I was able to speak with one of the pilots on that second flight, and he told me, yeah, there was a light, and it was right in the way of the plane, and they thought it was another plane that was about to land. So they were really scared. Well, that light suddenly turns off, nothing on the radar. The control tower says you're okay to go. So they start the flight to Buenos Aires, coming back to Buenos Aires, and they see that light again, like 60 kilometers away from Bariloche, flying on a circular pattern over uranium plant we have there. Okay, which is very interesting because of the interesting thing about UFOs and nuclear activities. But the other flight, the first flight that we knew had some problems, was I guess it was flight 1665 from Aerolíneas Argentinas, which is Argentinian Airways, that flying to Bariloche finds a light uh, passing by in front of them. And as the light passes by in front of the nose of the plane, the computer of the commander turns off, which is odd and dangerous. That happened over another state called Rio Negro. That is a very interesting hotspot for the UFO phenomena, but maybe we can speak about that in another time. The thing is, the co pilot had to land the plane, and later I interviewed the responsible for security of the airport, and Pablo Leiva is his name, and he told me, yeah, I spoke with the captain, and he told me in 30 years flying, I've never seen or lived something like that. A light going from one side to the other, flying in front of them, very close to the nose, and then the computer shutting down and never working again. So that's I think that's the time and the events that decided Alas was needed, because Pablo Ducó, the director, had his own encounters. And the thing is, we have an office here in Argentina, depending from the Air Force, which is uh, something like your AARO, but in a kawaii version, can we say? Something like little pretty office with three or four monitors there and a guy trying to identify leaves, birds, and satellites. That's all they do. The thing is, and it's terrible because when our director Ducot went to try to communicate to the Air Force what happened with him. He was flying from the Patagonia to Buenos Aires, and he finds an object which comes from his right and stops over the plane in flight, illuminating the cabin, and travels with the plane, and then goes forward and back, and goes flying again. And he said, "Okay, I need to tell this to someone. What is going on?" That was his first encounter, but he had more encounters, and he went to make the report, and we do know they burned that report. He has a copy because he asked for a copy to a friend on the Air Force, but we know for sure that document was burned, which is illegal, of course, and but you might have an idea of how it works here with the UFO phenomenon and some people in the Air Force, because some other people is very interested in knowing the truth. And I must say that not everyone is the same, not everyone works the same way, but well, some people is on an office saying they're watching the skies and trying to find answers, and the only thing they do is receive pictures of birds and insects moving in front of a camera and say, "Oh, that's a bird, that's an insect." No, nothing to see here. So we needed alas. We need alas, and we're always working to provide confidence and a place for the pilots to share what they see in the skies. I know Pablo is doing a very good job with pilots from other countries like Peru, Uruguay, Mexico, Chile. So no, nothing. We just have like 12 months of work. We're just starting, but we have very strong material and a lot of cases because the pilots see some very intriguing things. Cristina, is unbelievable. In my last flight to Chile a few months back, I was sitting with two pilots of the company I was flying with, and I asked them, "Have you ever seen something strange in the sky?" Because I'm a journalist and I look for UFOs, and I was thinking, okay, I hope they they don't send me to the other side of the plane. And they told me, "No, we see a lot of starlings going up and down, and in the beginning we thought they were UFOs, but no, they were starlings, but we're seeing other thing." And which is that other thing? The dancing lights. The dancing lights. Yeah. We always see the dancing lights. And he told me that every month, in the last days of the month, in a very specific sector of the Patagonia, you can see the dancing lights in the sky, not so high from the ground, and they don't have an explanation. The lights are always like dancing or playing each other. They never get close to the planes, but they see the lights clearly, and they really don't know what the lights are. So that's another thing we need to check. We need to go there and try to find the dancing lights.
How would you compare the mentality of people from Argentina to those in the US when it comes to publicly talking about UFOs? Is there a stigma or is it a pretty easy conversation to have with people?
Very good question, because when I see the way the people in the United States of America communicate their experiences, I see they try to explain what happened the best way they can, but at the same time, uh, be very discreet about, because the stigma is really strong. At the same time, the good thing is in the last few years, I have seen mm, an opening to this topic. And also the surveys say like maybe like 70% of the Americans think there are extraterrestrials out there and maybe coming to our planet. So it is a very interesting how things have changed with the years. And here in Argentina, look, people is more open to speak about the issue. Maybe the younger generations are even more open than the older ones, because we had a time when talking about UFOs was related to the crazy of the town, or the drunk of the town, the people you don't want to find. And now it has changed with a lot of effort, but it was mostly because the topic was ridiculized on the media, just like in the United States. I mean, if there was a psychological operation, it was, I don't know if it was at a global level, but in America, North America, Central America, South America, the operation was real, because the stigma is very, very, very present here in Argentina also. And the reasons are exactly the same. People here have the same fears you have there to speak about what happens, because of the stigma. And the stigma has the same roots, exactly the same roots. So, yes, we are a little bit more open, not so much to the media. We are more open to speak about the phenomenon between each others and friends and family, and we share it. And yeah, it's mostly something that is like daily basis and accepted, but at the same time, the stigma is still very present and has the very same roots than the stigma in North America.
Have you come across any cases recently of people in Argentina seeing drones or orbs or UFOs that are kind of mimicking the same things that are being seen on the East Coast of the United States, like New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania? Have you come across anything recently in your research?
Look, I received an email this very same morning of a sailor who told me they were working last night in I guess it was right in the shores of Mar del Plata, which is a very well known city here in Argentina. They were a few kilometers inside the ocean, and they started to see lights coming out from the water, like drones, he told me, and flying over the boat and going to land. So it sounds very much like what's happening in New Jersey. This man he's a civilian working for the Navy here in Argentina. And I know who he is. And I can trust in this witness. So, yeah, is the second, no, sorry, is the third case this week I heard like that. The other two, I need to confirm the information. I'm not sure about that, but that case this morning, I mean, last night is really interesting and combines with what happened there. But the also in September 2023, we had our own invasion here. We have a naval base. It's an aerial naval base because you have planes and boats and submarines there in Bahia Blanca. And the thing is, this base, the thing goes like this. We received. I remember we were doing a live show, and we started to receive videos from people showing they were in Bahia Blanca. Military officials were using anti-air artillery to shoot, trying to shoot something off from the sky. I think the thing is, we saw the videos, we heard the explosions, the detonations, and like 1 hour later, the director of that very same base came to a local TV channel and said, "Don't worry, no, nothing happened. People is lying. I don't know why they're doing that. They are editing videos and sending the videos to TikTok. It's not real." No, yeah, it was real. People was very scared. They were hearing the shots, explosions. They were seeing things in the sky, red lights in the sky, hovering. What was going on? Well, the thing is, we have a person informing from the inside of the base. Apparently, we were not able to confirm it 100%, but apparently, three objects came from the ocean, flying from the ocean, came to the base, and one of them stops very high in the sky, and the other two starts flying around closer to the ground, and obviously they thought they were being attacked. So they started to try to shut this. I even spoke to, sorry, a friend spoke to a man who is a mechanic, and my friend told me, a mechanic inside the base, and my friend told me that the thing is that that night the militaries there were training, and suddenly they see this object hovering them, and the general says, "Shoot that thing down." And they start shooting and trying to shoot that thing down. The thing is, they didn't shoot anything, but that artifact, whatever it was, shoots back and hurts. And we're not sure if it was one or three of the soldiers. The thing is, at least one of the soldiers spent a week at the hospital, and he was burned. So what really happened there? We don't know. The interesting thing is they first said the militaries said first it was just a hoax. People were making up things. Then the next week they said the army, not the navy, was doing an exercise on another place, and that's what the people heard and saw. But the real thing is that other place where supposedly the army was training is illegal to train there because it's one of these places where people work gathering resources, mining, yeah, mining stones, and well, supposedly the army was training there. Andrea Perez this researcher I told you, went to that place and asked the owners of the place, "Hey, did you let the army come here to train?" And no, they never were. They were never here. We have people 24 hours working here. It's impossible. That night we were working here. No shots, no army, no nothing. Well, since they cannot stand with the story of the army, changed the story again, and they said that it is instead that it was the navy doing an exercise with an helicopter. And another good friend of mine and part of my team, Pablo Alvarez, which is always working with our version of FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, he's been very proactive, trying to find the documents of about what happened that night, and they answer things like, "Yes, there was an helicopter." Okay, and what was the helicopter doing? Uh, we don't know. Come on, I mean, what, you don't know? It's your helicopter. What? How? How in the world would you wouldn't know what the helicopter is doing? But well, yeah, that's the Argentinian army, navy, and government trying to hide things with UFOs happening here. The thing is, we have internal intelligence sources telling us, yeah, there were three objects, black objects, coming from the ocean. They didn't know if they were drones. Some people think even right now it could be drones coming from uh, Chinese boats in the ocean, but for why? For what reason? I really don't know, because we're not a military power. So I really don't understand why the Chinese will put three highly classified drones over one of our bases to do what? It has no sense. So yeah, things like that, what you're seeing in New Jersey, also happens here in Argentina. And I have to say, people is reporting all the time in places like Victoria Entre Rios, La Pampa, Rio Negro, Neuquén. Those are names of different states. People is reporting on a daily basis. Yes, I saw a flying saucer or a black triangle or something that looked like a drone, but then it went off on a impossible speed and no sonic boom, and people losing time and seeing strange creatures. So yeah, we have a lot of things going on here.
This incident that took place in September of 2023, the one that you were just referring to, was it one day or did it happen over several days from your investigations?
No, it was just one day. The thing is that in 1960, I can't remember if it was 1962 or 1965, the same Navy base received UFOs. But this time, the UFOs stand over the ocean a few miles away of the shore in front of the base, where three objects. We have the testimony of one of the militaries who was uh, there. There were three objects standing there for 3 days. And we even have a very bizarre story with this case. The first night, in fact, it was like 3 days and 4 nights, because the first night when these objects appear, The military opened fire against those objects because the objects were hovering the Navy base. But the next morning, when the sun comes up, they see the objects in the ocean just a few miles away from the shore. I don't know in which moment happened, but suddenly a gate opens in one of the objects. This is from a report made by an intelligence officer, retired, who told the story. And he also said that all the pictures and videos were taken by some people and sent it to the United States. But the thing is, a gate opened in one of the objects at some point, a chair goes down to the water, and a little being starts coming down from the with a bucket. It's bizarre, I know. It's like the John Kill stories with a little transparent bucket in the hand. He gets some water from the sea and comes back to the ship, and then the little stair goes up, and the gate closes. This intelligence officer retired, told the story several times, and he said there were documents, there were videos, there were photographies of the objects of this little being. He said there was contact uh, with the chief of the base and the beings, but we don't know much more about that because supposedly all the information was put on a box and sent to the United States of America. So maybe one of your friends there has the documents, Cristina.
I've never heard a story like that before. And it just goes to show that we need to know more about Argentina. And the stories that you've told us so far, I'm like, how come I never heard of this? And I feel embarrassed to even say I have never heard of any of these cases before.
In 1962, also, very close to that Navy base, which, by the way, is called Espora, was warned of something falling from the sky, or maybe shoot down a UFO in 1962. There is a treaty with the United States of America that all the space material falling from the sky in Argentina should be shared with the United States of America. That treaty was signed during the Cold War, and I am assuming it was to find Soviet technology falling in other countries, in friendly countries. Apparently, they even built a place because they needed Hercules C-130 to land somewhere near the crash site, and they even build a landing strip for the plane next to the UAP crash. They get the UAP, they put it on the plane, and they fly back to the United States. I have information of another case in La Pampa where something very similar happens. I was able to interview the pilot of one of the helicopters coming from the same naval base to help with the recovery. And I guess it was in 1978, another object fell in the frontier between Argentina and Bolivia. And also uh, there was a plane coming from the United States to gather the debris and fly back to the United States. So we have UFO crashes, we have a strange treaty, and yeah, uh, really weird things happens here, but also our militaries are. I think they know much more than what they say about the topic.
That seems to be the case for a lot of different countries. Whenever they talk about UFOs, it's like they're always holding back. We've seen this, of course, in the US. We can say that for Argentina. We've seen it for Japan as well, and a few other countries. And it's disappointing that they are not willing to share that information with the public. But even so, that's what makes our work and our research so interesting is to fill in those gaps. But sometimes you got to be a little careful. For you, you might have had an encounter with the men in black. What happened? And why do you think that might be?
My father um, used to share his story with his friends and family. The story I told you at the beginning. And he had another story which involves me and my mother on the same spot, almost. We were traveling back from the same town to the ranch, and then a shining cloud stops over the roof of the truck of my father, and follows the truck of my father, and my mother, which was on the car behind, starts playing the horn to see my if my father can hear, and my father was traveling with me, which was little. I had like 1 2 years old, and well, the UFO fly away, and my father felt dizzy, and well, he had some very strange stories. The thing is, many years later, I guess it was like 1991, we moved. We were living in Mar del Plata, in another state, in another city, and we came back to the state of La Pampa, and the house my father bought was being built, so we were renting another house for a few months, and then once the house was ready to be occupied, we moved to the new house, but the surroundings of that house, all of the other houses were empty. It was a neighborhood that was not still operating as a neighborhood. It was a closed place. We were there because my father was friend of the architect, the owner of the project, and we moved a few weeks before the inauguration of the neighborhood. The thing is, we had no telephone there. We had no number on the house. The street had no name. Where there was no way anyone could find us. We were like CIA spooks, hiding in on a safe place, on a safe house. Because we're untraceable. The thing is, one afternoon, uh, someone knocks the door. My mother opens the door, and there is a man. It was summer, hot like hell, and this man was standing there with a briefcase and a perfect dark suit, black tie, and a white shirt. Uh, and his clothes was like winter clothes. It was too heavy for summer, but he was perfectly fine. And he asked for my father, and he introduces himself as a salesman. Uh, my father comes to the door and said, "No, I really don't want anything. No, no, but no, I really want to speak with you about your UFO encounters." Okay, they spent the whole afternoon talking about the UFO encounters of my father. The men left, and there was something strange about that man. He never asked for a glass of water. He never. He was just. Uh, I mean, sickeningly interested in the stories of my father. A few years later, my father died, and maybe 2 years after that, my mother, in another place, in another city, here in Buenos Aires, on a, she was making a course of and I'm sorry, I've lost the word again. But well, she was studying marketing, and there was a convention, and then suddenly in in the crowd, he saw he saw the same men coming to her dressed exactly the same, with the same briefcase, the same clothes. He was exactly the same guy with the same aspect, like the day before. Like no, 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 I guess it was like,
It was like no years passed.
yeah, it was like maybe 10 years later. And he asked for my father, which is weird because if he was a man in black, why will he ask for my father? And he asked for my father, and well, she told me, no, he died. Oh, I'm really sorry about that. My condolences. Anyway, that was the first encounter with of my family with the men in blacks. But the thing I always say that I know a real men in black is because once I asked to a very important researcher, UFO researcher here in Argentina and the Spanish speaking world, which was Fabio Serpa. I interviewed him because I found on the WikiLeaks emails related to South America a very interesting story about the CIA interested in the UFO researchers of on South America, and the emails were transcribing some memos from 1976, 77, 78, and what they were doing following these investigators like Fabio Serpa, like Romanuk, and some others. The thing is, I asked Serpa if there was a possibility because he wrote a book about the Men in Black, and he always said he knew the Men in Black. And I asked him, is it possible that the Men in Black that you talk about are the CIA agents I found on these documents? And he tells me, yeah, 100%. Yes, absolutely. And all the operations to ridiculize the witnesses are coming from there. And so, okay, and he told me, okay, and this is the last thing I'm gonna tell you, and I won't give you another interview, never again. And he never spoke me again. He was, I guess, he was scared for the sound of his voice. We were speaking on the phone. I have the recording. I shared it a few weeks ago, and he never spoke me again. Sadly, years later, I found out what he was saying. That I know persons, I know people who speaks with other people, people from the Air Force, who call witnesses to tell them don't speak about what happened to you. And I saw that with my own eyes. I was interviewing a pilot, and suddenly his cell phone starts ringing, and he shows me, and I recognize the name of that person, and put the call on speaker, and I hear that person saying,
I know you're with Fernando. I know you're in Victoria. I know you're going to give a lecture about what happened to you. It would be nice if you don't speak about that.
Those are the real men in black. People interested on maintaining the stigma, on feeding the stigma, so people won't speak about what they know. The harassment is real. The I mean, for a pilot from the Air Force, it's impossible to say if they saw a UFO or not. And for civilians, for commercial pilots, it's difficult because they receive these phone calls. And I must add, when I spoke to the chief of security from the Bariloches airport, Pablo Leiva, I mentioned Pablo earlier. When I spoke to him, he was receiving messages constantly from the same person telling him,
No, what you saw was just satellite. What the crew saw was just a satellite. Don't speak about that. Don't talk about that. Don't speak with Fernando or anyone else.
and he showed me the messages. He took screenshots and he sent me the messages. It was 30 minutes before we went live on our show, and he was so upset. He wouldn't say his name because it's dangerous, people. I mean, not because of a life threat, because of your work, because of your reputation. They can make your life really stressful, complicated, operating against you in a political way. So you need to be careful, and these witnesses need to be careful. But the person is always the same, and that very same person, guess what? Is the person the big media calls here in Argentina to speak about the UAP topic. He's mostly following every step that the AARO gives, and the same narrative the Pentagon has through Susan Gog. So I need I need to ask myself, is there a relation? Are we still related with some people from other countries spreading a narrative against UAPs, UFOs, witnesses? I mean, the stigma is real, but the harassment is also real. The men in black are real. I know they are real. How they operate, they're. I am not so sure. Looking even what with all that happened with my family, and but I am not so sure the men in black are like devoted to buy Cadillacs and black suits and strange hats and drive through the roads of Argentina looking for witnesses. No, I think they are more a little bit more sinister because they have power, political power, and they're in good positions in the government, and they can they can easily make your life a hell because you can lose your job, you can lose your family. It is complicated, and the men in black are real. I think they're more human than most of the people think they are, but at the same time, look, Cristina, I have had a coffee with this man I'm talking to you, who works for the Air Force, and he's very nice. He's a kind guy. You can speak for hours with him. He's a little bit strange. I should add, and this is a joke. Maybe he's an alien too, but he's a little bit strange. But no, no. I mean, I don't think even is a bad guy. I don't even think he's a bad guy. I think he's doing his work. He's doing what he's asked for. But yeah, Men in Black are real, and they have political power.
There aren't. You're right there. And I have one final question for you. I we there's so much more I want to cover, but our time is now so limited. And so my last question to you is, because we had spoken about this privately, is that you had mentioned to me that Argentina, there's a certain place in Argentina that's very similar to Skinwalker Ranch in Utah. Tell us about that location and where it might be and some of the things that have been experienced there.
Look, to be honest, I guess I should be talking about like seven, eight, nine states of Argentina, which are just like a big skinwalker ranch. But there is a zone and three states combined, which are La Pampa, Neuquén, and Rio Negro. And there you have uh, a lot of plains. You have some hills. You have mountains of the on the west, and that's the gate to the Patagonia, the first part of the Patagonia, where the Patagonia starts. No, the first three states of the Patagonia are those: Rio Negro, La Pampa, and Neuquén. They are all connected on the borders, and the phenomenon there is, I mean, I lived in La Pampa. I traveled a lot of times to Rio Negro, and things are happening there all the time. Lights in the sky, orbs, strange animals, strange humanoids, abductions, people hurt, people burn, officers from the law enforcement disappearing for a day and appearing the other day, a woman disappearing from a town on a morning and appearing 60 kilometers away in the middle of the night, not knowing what happened in the middle. Those things, that kind of things, are happening all the time. And we have also the magnetic field uh, uh, situation of anomalies on the magnetic fields, because I have a friend who has pigeons for messaging, like the old pigeons to send messages. Well, it's a like an old sport here, but some people still do it. He has pigeons, and he told me that when he sends pigeons to La Pampa, he knows they're always going to take some more time to arrive, because the pigeons are going around a zone they will not enter. And that zone is right in the middle of the hotspot of the area. The whole area is a hotspot, and the pigeons won't get in there. The pinch, obviously, there are birds inside that place, but the pigeons who are traveling from one place to another, well, they make they move around. He put some chips on the pigeons to see why they were so late always, and he followed them by GPS. And he saw the pigeons. He showed me the map, and the pigeons goes like this, and then whoop, turn and keep flying all the time. It's unbelievable. And in that place, I have several stories of people losing time or gaining time, having time slips, people traveling on national route number 5 and doing like 100 kilometers in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I want some of that. Hand it over. That sounds
Yeah,
amazing.
you can see the difference on the gas tank. Because the gas tank is full, still full. they did not travel those 100 kilometers. I spoke with a mechanic of big machinery there in a town, a very little town called Anguil. And he told me, well, I was about to take my mother to church on Sunday. And, well, we went out of the town and we were going to another town, which is 60 kilometers away. And I started to ride the truck over the road, and then I felt a little bit dizzy, and then I was in the corner of the of the church, and I said, "How do we get here?" Which was like 15-20 minutes was made in 4 minutes, and the watch of his mother was stopped on 4 o'clock, which was the hour they left the little town called Anguil. And he showed me the clock was stopped at 4 o'clock. It was amazing. And things like that all the time, all the time there in La Pampa, Rio Negro, Neuquén, also Victoria, Entre Rios, which is another state, another city, has an amazing amount of sightings of lights in the sky, in the river, because we you have there the Paraná River, which is one of the most important rivers here in Argentina, and you see the lights going in and going out, and humanoids and all kind of things. I mean, it is Argentina, Chile. Chile has some unbelievable places like Cajon del Maipo and many others. Eh, the activity here is outstanding. I mean, uh, I've shared this with people like Jacques Vallée, um, and many others, but mostly with Jacques Vallée. I met him a few years ago when we shared a dinner when he was here in Argentina, and he was surprised of the quality and the amount of cases here. He was here because of another very interesting case, which is the case of Juan Perez. Juan Perez was a little boy in 1978 when he was invited to get into something he thought was something normal, until he realizes it was not normal. It was a UFO landing on the field where he father worked. He can see from his door the the trees which are marking the place where these strangers, these aliens, were expecting for him uh, in the other side of a mist that morning, surrounding everything on that field. I mean, he has the typical side effects that experiencers show, like precognition, coming via through dreams, things that finally come true. I was sitting in the middle of the night with him. He was looking to the other side. The last time I was at his house, and he was looking to the nothing itself. It was really dark. We were with a team of Canadian friends shooting a documentary there, and I was looking at the stars because it was a clear night. It was beautiful, and I see something I've seen like only 2 or 3 times in my life, which is a very little light, like playing and going from one star to the other. It's really strange because you won't see a massive starship flying from one star to the other. So it is something that is maybe above our atmosphere, and moving like it was hiding, going from one star to the other. It was really a little thing. And I was looking that, and I was amazed, thinking, okay, here we go again, the third time. And then Juan Perez, who was looking to the other side, to the nothing itself, goes like this, look up to the sky, and ask him, hey, Juan, what's going on? It's them, my friend. They're just right there. I mean, he was looking to the other side. I didn't say anything, but he was aware that there was something going on in the sky with that little light going back and forward. And yeah, he pointed that that place, and well, then Rob came and gave him a laser and asked him to show where the light was, and he pointed exactly to the place where I saw the last movement of the light. So Juan has this kind of things. He had some very interesting encounters. He worked a lot. What the thing I like the most of Juan's experiences is that he's working real close with a psychiatrist. So we know Juan has not any mental health problems. You know what I mean? He's not crazy. He's not delusional. He's a mm, healthy human being who works in the field with. He's raising pigs. That's his work, and he's selling those pigs. That's all he do, and he's a very good human being, a simple human being who happens to have extraordinary experiences. Jacques Vallée and his wife made an evaluation of Juan when he was 12 years old because they were here in Argentina, and they came from because of his case. They came here to investigate what happened, and Jacques Vallée's wife was a psychologist, and Jacques told me, he told me, yeah, my wife told me she did an evaluation of Juan, and she told me, no, the kid is telling the truth, and he has no mental health problems. And even today, he's a normal guy, but with experiences which are mind blowing, like losing himself in the woods that he knew very well, which is quite strange. He was hunting. He was hunting deers, I guess, and he lost himself in those woods that he knew very well. He didn't know where he was, but suddenly he finds again the mist, and behind the mist, which is the name of a book about him written by the psychiatrist Nestor Berlanda. Behind the mist, there is a ship, a saucer, landed on the ground, several white beings, tall white beings, and he obviously is a little bit scared, but he knows these beings are the same beings from his first experience. But the most mind-blowing thing is that right in the middle of the white tall beings, there is another being, a human being, who happens to be his grandfather, who passed away a few years before that encounter, and the the great father told him, "Yeah, these are the tatas. The tatas is an expression for the ancestors. in Guarani, which is the language of Juan Perez, because he's from the Native Americans called Guaraníes. He's from a tribe, a culture called Guaraníes. And they have their own language, which is Guarani, and the Tatas are these figures, these classic figures related with the ancestors. So, what are we dealing with here? Because are we dealing with extraterrestrials, cryptoterrestrials, our ancestors, the Tatas? What is going on here? That is the big question, and maybe we should look at the big picture and realize the phenomenon is something global, happening all the time in different levels and every country, to every human being. I don't believe in chosen ones. I believe in people having different kind of experiences at different levels, but somehow interacting with the phenomenon. And in the case of Juan Perez, you can see clearly the interaction with the phenomenon. It is not always good. It is not always easy. Sometimes it's really hard for the experiencer, but mostly because of the stigma and the people not believing them what happened. And I really like that case because uh, I think it is very human, and at the same time it is 100% high strangeness. And I think the high strangeness is the real key to understand the phenomenon and its relation with our consciousness.
Fed, thank you so much for being on the show today, to sharing your research and your analysis and doing it all in English. You told me this is your very first interview done in English. You did so well. Thank you so much for just being here and doing it. I know it's hard. I
Thank
really,
you.
really do. So I'm very grateful. Where can people find you online to stay up to date with your research? You have a channel in Spanish and you're creating one for your English speakers. Where can they find you?
They can find me easily on the UFO Signal. Yeah, the UFO Signal is my new channel in English. And in Spanish, if you speak Spanish, or you want to put the subtitles and the auto translation, the Spanish is called La Señal, the signal. I make a lot of interviews to interesting people and travel to different places here in Argentina, Chile, and other countries here in South America to find the best cases and show them on video.
And all of his links will be in the description box below. Fair? Thank you again.
Thank you, Cristina. See you next time.
If you enjoy the strange and the mysterious, UFOs, the paranormal, and cryptids, this channel is for you. So make sure to subscribe, as I do 3 videos right here every single week, and hit that notification bell so you do not miss any of the bonus content I post right here.